Hey guys, I am Snoop Dogg. Today I'm with a special guest, Jennette McCurdy. Hi.
Hey there.
Did you like film on iCarly?
Sure did. I worked on that show for 7 years, and it was the best place I could have asked to work on as my first ever show. I miss those times a lot.
I saw him first, Sept 27, 2008. Carly and you both develop a crush on Freddie's nerdy friend Shane. When the pair cannot decide who should be allowed to date him, they come up with a novel plan to settle the argument. However, an overheard conversation and an accident involving a broken lift bring the competition to an abrupt end.
Yeah, I remember the scene where Freddie's friend Shane gets stuck in the elevator and we're having a huge fight over who get to date him, and we both end up going to kiss him, and then the lift starts working again and the doors open and Shane's like, what are you both doing? I always loved those episodes with Shane.
I guess everyone just hates me now. April 8, 2022. After the whole internet turns against Carly, she tries to win her audience back by faking a relationship with Freddie. Spencer gets overzealous planning Freddie's new app launch party, while Harper tries to get Double Dutch's dog to like her.
Fun times. I remember Freddie's character gets really into an app-making business venture and puts a lot of work and passion into it, but the app launches buggy and crashes, so he has a bit of a breakdown. Sam tries to get the Double Dutch dog to like her, but the dog is obsessed with me.
I object Lubert. APR 8. 2022. Carly must defend herself in court with Spencer and Freddie's help after Lubert returns seeking damages from injuries sustained on her old web show. Millicent tries to make Harper her new bestie.
This episode was fun to shoot as they filmed it like it was a real court show with an audience of extras and a judge. Spencer and Freddie dress up like lawyers and defend me in a court battle against Lubert, who is demanding the money that I owe him from the times that I'd beat him up.
I Phaser Oct 4, 2008. Carly is forced to intervene when she realizes that Spencer has become addicted to playing a video game. Meanwhile, you tricks Freddie into believing that he is being plagued by bad luck when he refuses to forward a chain email.
This episode was a real fun one as Spencer gets obsessed with a video game that I end up using to get him to do my chores, and also because Freddie spends a lot of the show being unlucky, and I get to watch him run around and have bad things happen to him.
I'm Wild and Crazy. April 15, 2022. After a game of Never Have I Ever, Carly fears she is boring and sets out to prove to Harper that she can hold her own on a wild night out on the town. Spencer finds new office space for Freddie's app at the old Groovy Smoothie location.
This episode was really fun to do. I spent most of it trying to prove to Harper that I could be cool and party like she did. And Spencer, Freddie, and Millicent go back to the Groovy Smoothie to rent out office space for Freddie's app. But when they return, they find the smoothie has been transformed into a health food joint, and it throws Freddie and Spencer into an existential crisis.
IOWU Oaked 11, 2008. You is insulted when Freddie accuses you of not paying him and Carly back any of the money that she has borrowed. You tries everything you can think of to pay them back, even getting an actual job. When the work proves to be too much, Carly and Freddie put a plan in action to secretly help you get the money she owes. Meanwhile, Spencer helps a little girl sell fudge for her scout troop.
Yeah, this was a fun one. Freddie gets super annoyed that I keep borrowing his stuff but not ever paying him back. So when Freddie gets annoyed and starts accusing me, I freak out and realize I owe everyone a lot of money. We then spend the episode doing a bunch of wacky things to try and help me make money to pay them back. Freddie comes up with the idea of me getting a job at a clothing store, and Spencer and a little girl have an argument about the price of fudge.
I hire a new assistant, APR 22, 2022. When Granddad comes to visit, Carly hires him as her assistant. While Spencer is determined to finally win his respect, Harper helps Freddie with his birth chart and is horrified to discover that they are a perfect match.
This episode is one of my favorites from the reboot because Granddad is always a fun character, and Spencer really wants him to finally be proud of him, but Granddad doesn't give him the respect back that Spencer always needs so desperately from him. And the B story with Freddie and Harper, which I thought was great, with Harper finding out that Freddie is her perfect match, and she then spends the episode finding clever ways to try and get Freddie to notice her.
I Hurt, Lubert Oct 18, 2008. A sketch goes horribly awry when Carly's obnoxious doorman Lubert is injured. The gang attempts to nurse him back to health, but Freddie's mother steps in and insists on taking over. Meanwhile, Spencer finds an old radio and makes some truckers angry when he bothers them over the airwaves.
I loved this one, mostly because Lubert always getting hurt is hilarious, and Freddie's overprotective mother barges into the web show apartment and tries to force us to go to her house so she can take care of poor, wounded wounded Lubert. And as for Spencer's side story, we tried so many takes when he had to go down to the bottom of the building to speak to the truckers over the radio, because we all kept laughing too much.
iCupid APR 29 2022. Carly hires a matchmaker to help Spencer find someone to settle down with. But when he falls for the matchmaker instead, Carly must convince her that Spencer is her type. Freddie is ready to move out on his own, but it won't be easy.
This episode is very fun. Spencer finally decides he wants to find a serious relationship and get married. So Carly hires a matchmaker to help him find someone. But the twist is the matchmaker and Spencer end up falling for each, while Carly tries her hardest to push Spencer onto other women. And the Freddie plot is great because Freddie finally decides to move out of the web show apartment, but he is unable to and finds a lot of problems along the way.
I go to Japan Nov 8 2008. After a bumpy flight and an unscheduled skydive, Carly and the gang befriend the hosts of a rival Japanese web show. However, things turn sour when their new Japanese friends do all they can to keep iCarly out of the competition.
This is a great one. We spent a week in Japan shooting a bunch of the scenes in this episode. Japan is an amazing country, and because we end up having a battle against a Japanese web show with a rivalry between us, Spencer gets really competitive and tries to trash talk us in Japanese during the web show. This was all great, except he doesn't speak Japanese in the slightest. It ends up with us bursting into laughter whenever he tries to trash talk or say anything.
I build a team May 6, 2022. Carly hires a manager to take her channel to the next level. But the new guy butts heads with Freddie Spencer and enlists Harper to design his new restaurant uniforms while he tries to please a tough food critic.
This episode is a real fun one. I finally decide to get myself a manager to help me grow my web show, but he turns my web show into a huge business. Spencer decides to open a restaurant where Millicent and Harper are in charge of the uniforms and design them in their own crazy ways. And later, Spencer gets a really strict food critic who has a great time ripping him apart for everything wrong with the place.
I dragged him May 13th, 2022. Carly gets an opportunity to audition for a reality adventure competition show with Spencer as her partner, but his competitive tactics create tension. Harper styles a Hollywood Icons drag night. Freddie helps Millicent with her Model UN tournament.
I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. It was fun because Spencer is extremely competitive and really wants to win the competition reality show, so he turns up his tactics to the extreme and turns me into a super competitive person too. Harper puts on a drag night competition with the theme being old Hollywood icons, and we do so many fun characters, including Audrey Hepburn, Marilyn Monroe, Betty Davis, and more. And Freddie has to help Millicent prepare for a school competition.
I Christmas Deck 13. 2008. In an attempt to spice up the Christmas celebrations with an unconventional tree, Spencer accidentally sets fire to all of Carly's presents. Distraught, she starts to wish that she had a normal brother. However, a Christmas angel visits Carly and shows her exactly what her life would be like if Spencer were more normal.
I loved this episode so much, so much. Not only because it's a Christmas special, but because Spencer tries so hard to make Christmas fun and new by making us do a non-traditional tree, but he ends up setting all my presents on fire. And then I'm introduced to a Christmas angel who shows me another version of my life where Spencer is a regular guy who works a normal job and the holiday is so uneventful and not interesting in the slightest.
I'm a USA Bay May 20th, 2022. A USA Bay doll is to be made in Carly's image, but the popular influencer doll is nothing like her. Spencer enlists a pet monkey to help Freddie fix his relationship troubles.
This episode was fun to film. We get approached by a toy company who want to make a toy version of me based on my web show, but the doll maker completely changes my character and I end up with an over-the-top doll that looks nothing like me. And Spencer decides to get a pet capuchin monkey to help Freddie with his relationship issues.
I Kiss Jan 3, 2009. You overhears Freddie confess that he's never kissed a girl and exposes his secret on the web show. Gibby and Carly train Spencer for a tryout with a professional football team.
This one is a classic iCarly episode. Freddie is mortified when I overhear him confess that he hasn't had his first kiss. And then I expose his secret on the web show for the whole world to see. Gibby and I decide that since he is our friend, we need to help him get his first kiss. Spencer ends up trying out for a professional football team with Gibby as his coach.
Pie Knob 15, 2008. When Carly, you, and Spencer bring Freddie to their favorite pie shop, they learn that its proprietor has passed away. Worse still, it appears that his recipes may be lost forever.
This episode is great. We all love the pie place we discover, and it becomes a hangout for us. We find out that the owner passed away, and his family decides they are going to close the place down. We spend the episode trying to find his pie recipes so that we can keep a bit of him around. We end up finding them in a secret hiding place. And this episode also involves Spencer and a pie eating contest for free pie.
I hit something. May 27, 2022. Humiliated after being the target of a viral prank, Carly finds an outlet for her anger with Harper's help, leading them both to an underground fight club for influencers. Spencer and Freddie help Millicent with a boy problem.
A fun but violent episode. I end up being the target of a viral prank, and Harper ends up suggesting a way to vent my anger, so we go to a huge fight club that's dedicated to influencers. And as for Freddie and Spencer's story, Millicent has a boy over to our apartment and is having trouble letting him go, which ends up annoying Freddie a whole lot. Spencer tries helping Millicent, but ends up just scaring her more.
I throw a flawless murder mystery party, June 3, 2022. Freddie's new girlfriend needs help planning his perfect birthday party, but Carly's insight into what makes Freddie happy leads to a stunning revelation about their relationship. Spencer and Harper's scheme to leave the party early to meet new dates.
This one is great. Freddie gets his first ever girlfriend, and she loves him so much she wants to throw him the perfect birthday party. But her version of a great party is a super fancy and uptight murder mystery, whereas our version of fun is a big mess and a ton of sweets. And Spencer and Harper scheme together to escape the party and end up going on a double date.
I give away a car, Jan 17, 2009. The gang runs a contest, and the prize is a new car. After Neville wins, the kids discover that the dealership had no knowledge of the contest or the car they were donating.
This episode is a lot of fun. So we decided to do a competition with the prize as a new car, but what we didn't know was that Spencer had set it up with no help from the dealership. And when Neville wins the car, we find out there was no car donation, so everyone ends up running around trying to fix the situation before Neville finds out. And we end up discovering a lot of hidden talents as we all try to earn money to buy a car for the winner.
I rocked the vote Feb 7, 2009. When Carly, UA, and Freddie urge the iCarly fans to vote David Archuleta to victory on America Sings, they feel bad for the runner-up and help him make a music video.
This one is fun. It's very political too, which is pretty funny. We decide to use the show to help David Archuleta win a singing competition and tell all the fans to go out and vote for him. In doing this, he ends up beating the runner-up, and we feel so bad for him that we try our hardest to help him make a music video and make him famous. This episode is crazy for a lot of reasons.
I meet Fred Feb 14, 2009. Freddie says on the air that he is not a fan of internet sensation Fred, causing Fred to announce the end of his videos forever. Fans are infuriated that Freddie has caused an end to the popular video.
This one is a classic. Freddie goes on the web show and talks about how he is not a fan of the YouTube show Fred, and this somehow leads to the real Fred announcing on his show that he is putting an end to his videos forever. The iCarly fandom end up turning on Freddie for this, and we spend the episode trying to find ways to get Fred back on YouTube.
I look alike Mars 7, 2009. When Carly, you, and Freddie sneak out to go to an MMA fight, they get lookalikes to trick Spencer into thinking they're still at home.
This episode is a great one, and we spend the night sneaking out to go to a violent MMA fight. And in order to sneak out, we hire a lookalike to fool Spencer into thinking we are still at home. Spencer, though, ends up seeing through the trick, and we spend a lot of the episode hiding from him. We get chased with a vacuum at one point. It's crazy.
I want my website back, Mar 21, 2009. When Carly, you, and Freddie lose the iCarly URL to Neville, he demands Carly to kiss him if she wants their URL back. Meanwhile, Spencer has fun with 200 pillows.
This one is fun. Neville buys our website address from us and decides to use it as ransom against me. What he does is demand that I kiss him if I want the web show address back. And for the side story, Spencer has some money left over and decides to spend it all on 200 of the softest pillows he can find.
I date a bad boy, May 9, 2009. When Carly dates a bad boy, she tries to keep the relationship a secret. Meanwhile, you pays Freddie to build a website posting all her favorite gross out videos.
This episode is one of my favorites. It was a lot of fun to make. Carly starts dating a bad boy and decides to hide it from the web show, as she knows we will all try to stop them. And for the B story, I get bored one day and pay Freddie to build a website consisting of a huge amount of gross out videos that I love to watch.
I make Sam girlier. APAR 11, 2009. When you admit she has a crush on a boy at school, Carly teaches you how to entice him by acting more girly. Spencer thinks that a girl likes him because of his tuxedo.
This episode was so much fun. And I admit to having a crush on some guy at school, and then Carly tries to teach me how to be more girly to get his attention, but I end up being absolutely terrible at it. Spencer is convinced one of the girls at school has a crush on him because she keeps eyeing him and his tuxedo whenever he puts it on, and he decides to flirt with her.
I reunite with Missy, May 16, 2009. When Carly's old friend Missy returns to Seattle, you believes that Missy is trying to replace her as Carly's best friend. Spencer gets trapped in the basement storage area.
This is a fun episode. Missy comes back to live in Seattle after moving away years ago. I'm happy about this until I realize Missy is trying to become Carly's new best friend and replace me as her best friend. And Spencer is on a mission to sort out the basement area, but ends up getting locked in a storage room and calls for help the whole episode long.
I Go Nuclear APR 22, 2009. When Carly, Ua, and Freddie get an assignment at school to create a project that benefits the environment, Carly ends up building an illegal nuclear-powered generator.
This is a total favorite of mine. My class gets assigned a school project where we have to do something to help the environment. So I decide to build a nuclear reactor in my house. I mean, what could go wrong? Spencer, Freddie, and I end up doing a bunch of crazy and illegal things to make my reactor work, and we end up causing a huge power outage in Seattle.
I Twins, June 11, 2009. Freddie tries to prove that Melanie, your twin sister, is Sam in disguise. Meanwhile, when Carly tutors Spencer's nemesis, Chuck, Spencer tries to convince her that Chuck is evil.
This episode was very fun. Freddie is completely determined to convince everyone that my sister is actually Sam in disguise. We do all sorts of tests to either prove or disprove his theory. And Spencer sees that I am tutoring his nemesis Chuck, who Spencer is entirely convinced is evil. Spencer spends the whole episode trying to keep me away from Chuck and convince me that he's up to something.
I fight Shelby Marks, Aug 8, 2009. Carly jokes about being able to beat up Shelby Marks, a tough female boxer, on her web show. Shelby takes it the wrong way and now Carly must fight her. Meanwhile, Spencer is taking allergy pills and must face bad side effects.
This episode is fun. It's so ridiculous. I get myself into a situation where I have to fight legendary female boxer Shelby Marks because I said I could beat her up. Spencer is all hopped up on allergy pills because it's that time of the year, and he is a complete mess throughout the episode.
I take on Dingo June 13, 2009. When Carly, you, and Freddie find out that a TV show on the Dingo channel has been copying material from iCarly, the kids and Spencer go to Los Angeles to confront the writers.
This episode is quite the adventure. We find out the show Dingo Channel have been plagiarizing our web show for a while now, so we end up booking a flight to LA so we can confront the writers and get answers. And Spencer comes along, of course, and we end up having some pretty crazy times in California.
I Must Have Locker June 27, 2009. When you and Freddie both win a contest for the best locker in school, they have to share the same locker. Meanwhile, Carly asks Spencer to give her art lessons.
This one is really fun, and a competition is held for the best locker in school, and both me and Freddie win, meaning we have to share a locker at school. It ends up being absolute chaos. And as for the side story of the episode, I decide I want to get good at art, so I ask Spencer to start giving me art lessons, which doesn't go particularly well.
I Cook Sep 19, 2009. When Carly, you, and Freddie defeat a famous chef in a cooking challenge, the chef gives up cooking and refuses to come out of his bedroom. Plus, Spencer has a vision of the future.
This episode is very cool. But we end up in competition with a celebrity chef and end up beating him, causing him to lose all of his confidence. So he locks himself in his bedroom and refuses to leave. And Spencer's side story is so much fun. He gets a vision of the future and spends the episode warning us of disaster and destruction that is to come.
iCarly Awards OCT3 2009. Carly, you, and Freddie present iCarly Awards for Best User-Generated Content, giving the awards to the winners live on the web show. Spencer enlists European swimsuit models to help him make the awards statuettes.
This is a very fun episode. We start iCarly Awards, a show where the fans vote for the best iCarly related content. and we present the awards live on air. This leads to a lot of mayhem when Spencer gets a bunch of European swimsuit models and tries to use them to make the award statues.
I Won't Cancel the Show, May 1, 2010. When you ends up in jail, Carly and Freddie vow that the web show must go on. They try to enlist Spencer's help at the last minute, but he has a date he can't cancel.
This episode is very hectic, but fun. I end up in jail for something I absolutely didn't do, which leaves Carly and Freddie without a co-host for the web show. They try desperately to get Spencer to help them, but he has a date that he is refusing to cancel to come and help, which causes a lot of trouble and the web show to be a bit of a mess.
I Beat the Heat, June 26, 2010. When a heat wave hits and the power goes out, Spencer finds an air conditioner, but word spreads quickly, and soon the loft is filled with uninvited guests.
Wow, this episode brings me back. It was one of my favorites to shoot. A heat wave hits and the whole city loses power, leaving the apartment a complete mess as everything goes off. Spencer ends up finding the only working air conditioner in the whole building, and word immediately spreads, and we end up with a lot of uninvited guests, and it's complete chaos.
I Can't Take It, Sep 17, 2011. Mrs. Benson discovers you and Freddie's relationship after Gibby, now the subject of you anger, concocts a plan to split them up. Carly decides between helping Gibby or fighting for you and Freddie.
This one is so dramatic. Mrs. Benson ends up walking in on me and Freddie in a pretty embarrassing situation. Gibby is in this one, and he decides to create chaos by causing trouble between me and Freddie. I am so convinced that Freddie is up to no good that I decide to team up with Gibby instead of standing by my boyfriend. Things end up getting really hectic and crazy, and it all ends up with me and Freddie trying to patch up our relationship.
I Get Pranky, Sep 25, 2010. Ridiculed for never pulling a prank. Carly recruits Spencer's help to prank you and Freddie, but after Spencer gets a taste for it, he can't stop pranking.
This one is a great episode. I have never played a prank before and get ridiculed on the web show about it. So Carly decides to help me play a prank. We recruit Spencer's help too, but Spencer ends up getting so into pranking that he can't stop and spends the episode going around and pranking everyone in sight, from me and Freddie to Mrs. Benson and even Gibby.
IQ Oak T1, 2011. Carly tries to impress a new boyfriend by trying to look smarter than she is. Meanwhile, the gang tries to find Tebow a new place to live after he gets kicked out of the groovy smoothie.
One of my favorite episodes. Carly is dating a new smart guy and tries to convince him and all of us that she's super smart. And the B story is hilarious. We try to find Tebow a new place to live because he gets evicted from the groovy smoothie, and we spend the whole episode trying to help him find a new place.
I start a fan war. Nov 19, 2010. Carly, you, and Freddie accidentally start a fan war between who should end up together, Carly and Freddie, or you and Freddie. Meanwhile, Spencer faces his online gaming nemesis, Aspartame.
This is a really funny episode. We start an all-out war between the fans over whether myself or Freddie should end up together. Spencer is also in this one and ends up playing an online video game against his online nemesis, Aspartame. And because Spencer is super competitive, he tries everything to win, including destroying the internet.
I hire an idiot, Feb 12, 2011. The gang decides to hire an intern. Carly and you hire a guy they think is cute, but Freddie has to prove to Carly and you that they're better off without the assistance.
Such a fun one. It's the episode where we hire an intern, and it's a guy Carly and I think is cute, but Freddie can see straight away that they're trouble. Freddie ends up having to convince Carly and me not to keep the intern. It's crazy. But the real fun is the B story. Spencer tries to impress a girl by going to a vegan poetry night and ends up being made to do some pretty wild stuff.
I Pity the Neville Mar 19, 2011. When a video of Neville yelling at a little girl surfaces on the internet, Neville becomes hated by everyone. After he begs them for help, the gang works to restore his honor.
This one is a great episode. A video surfaces online of Neville getting mad at a little girl. It causes Neville to go from super popular to being the most hated person online. He ends up asking Carly, me, and Freddie for help, and we spend the entire episode trying to improve his reputation and make him loved again by the web world.
Eyeballs, Jan 7, 2012. Freddie wants to be recognized for his creative contributions to iCarly, so he comes up with a technology that allows people to see 3D webcasts without glasses, but with strange side effects.
This episode brings back so many fun memories. Freddie wants to be more than just the producer and cameraman on the web show, and comes up with the 3D webcast idea to prove it, but the glasses he develops for people to watch the 3D show end up causing strange side effects, causing everyone to spend the episode acting crazy.
I Party with Victorious, June 11, 2011. Carly suspects that her new boyfriend, Steven, Keenan, is cheating on her with Tori Vega, so the gang plans a trip to Los Angeles to catch him in the act at a party thrown by Andre at Kenan Thompson's house.
This was an awesome episode. It has a lot of the cast from Victorious in it, which was so much fun. Carly suspects that her new boyfriend is cheating on her, and we go to LA for a huge party at Kenan Thompson's house to try and catch him in the act. Lots of fun and craziness goes down at the party.
I lost my mind. Aug 13, 2011, you, stunned about liking Freddie, seeks professional advice, but the show can't go on without her, so Carly and Freddie work to bring her back on board.
This is a great episode. The episode revolves around me having a crisis because I've started to develop feelings for Freddie. I seek professional help to try and figure out what to do about it and end up quitting the web show, which leaves Carly and Freddie to figure out how to get me back on the show.
I date Sam and Freddie Sep 10, 2011. Carly steps in to resolve an argument for you and Freddie. Soon Freddie and you start coming to Carly for help with every single fight, but now she's involved. Carly finds it difficult to remove herself.
Oh, I loved this episode. It was fun to film it. Freddie and I start fighting after we start dating, and it get pretty bad, so Carly ends up getting involved every time we have an argument. We spend the episode getting frustrated at Carly and her meddling, and then end up asking her to stop. But Carly wants us to be together, so she doesn't back off, which causes a lot of trouble.
I love you, Sep 24, 2011. Carly tells you and Freddie to try each other's favorite hobbies. Meanwhile, Spencer bumps into his old babysitter and asks her to dinner.
I love this episode. We learn that me and Freddie have polar opposite hobbies. We usually love doing opposite things in life. So the episode is a lot of fun as we spend the episode doing activities the other would enjoy. And then Spencer meets his old babysitter and asks her out, which ends up causing some serious drama law.
I Bloop 2 Electric Bloopaloo Deck 28, 2011. Christopher Kane, the actor who plays Rex on Victorious, returns to host an in-depth interview with the stars of iCarly and to show their hilarious bloopers and outtakes.
This one is a bit different because we are doing an iCarly reunion special type episode. So we go back through a bunch of the old blooper reels and outtake from the web show and show them on camera. The episode is so much fun, and Christopher Kane from Victorious hosts it, and he is absolutely hilarious.
I Still Psycho Deck 31, 2011. The iCarly gang has to find a way to escape from Nora and her crazy parents. When Freddie figures out how to send a message to his mom, will Mrs. Benson get there in time?
This episode is so chaotic. We end up in this crazy family compound with Nora's crazy parents and end up getting trapped in their house, trying to escape. Freddie tries to contact Carly and Mrs. Benson for their help, and he ends up messaging Mrs. Benson, and it is so funny. Not to mention, this episode involves Spencer fighting some crazy chickens and getting pecked to death by them. It's hilarious.
I Meet the First Lady Jan 16, 2012. You, Freddie, and Gibby arrange for Carly's father to see a live webcast of the show while he is stationed overseas. First Lady Michelle Obama visits Carly and her friends and commends them for supporting the military.
Oh, this episode was so much fun. We were really lucky to get a real First Lady on the show. There was a real security detail and everything for her. And Gibby comes up with a way to do a military benefit show while Carly's dad is overseas, which ends up going wrong. And then we have to figure how to make the show extra special with Michelle Obama's help. And it all ends up being really fun.
Pilot Jun 8, 2013. You and Kat meet when a dilemma lands them inside a rubbish truck. After becoming friends and roommates, they babysit 3 kids, giving them the idea to start their own babysitting service.
This is one of my favorites. I love this episode. Me and Kat meet for the first time and end up getting stuck in a trash truck. We then decide to live together and babysit 3 kids together and end up starting our own babysitting business. It's absolutely wild, and the whole episode just goes insane.
Favorite show June 15, 2013. You and Kat babysit 2 boys, the first of which likes to ask a lot of questions. Meanwhile, the other can't stop hugging. The girls attempt to save their favorite TV show from being canceled.
This episode is so much fun. We both babysit 2 little boys, and they both end up having their quirks. One of them talks way too much and asks a million questions, and the other one has an issue with hugging and tries to hug us. And everyone who gets in his reach, it ends up being hard for us to focus on anything because it ends up being a lot of work trying to handle all the issues of the 2 boys. And we have to spend the whole episode trying to save our favorite show from being canceled.
The Brit Brats. Jun 22, 2013. You and Kat babysit two young girls who eventually turn out to be con artists. You goes to elderly acres in an attempt to fulfill a community service requirement for her online high school.
This episode is absolutely hilarious. We start babysitting two British little girls who end up being cons and spend the episode tricking us in every way possible. We try to get rid of them with a lot of insane attempts, but they keep coming back. And Kat heads to an elderly home to do community service and ends up on the wrong floor and ends up having to help all the older citizens who think she is their nurse.
New Goat, June 29, 2013. You and Kat babysit a goat while trying to win over Dilbin, their landlord's obnoxious son who is trying to get the girls evicted. Dice begins managing Goomer, a dim-witted MMA fighter.
This one was such a fun one because we got to bring in real animals. It was a lot of fun to have this little goat, and the hardest part was to get the goat to do anything that would work for the show. It was a fun set, and having this whole thing with trying to get Dilbin to like us was a fun change of pace from our usual episodes.
Texting competition, June 13, 2013. Kat discovers you is really fast at texting and convinces her to compete in a texting contest against a boy butler. Dice tries to avoid an annoying old friend rather than just be honest with the friend.
This episode is fun. Kat finds out that I am really fast at texting, and she convinces me to go compete in a text contest. And we spend the episode trying to get me ready for the competition while Dice is trying to avoid one of his past friends that keeps finding him. And we spend the episode trying to shake this friend so he doesn't show up. And Spencer ends up trying to make a dating app for dogs. It's wild.
Babysitter War Jewel 2013. When a client says, "You are my favorite babysitter ever," you and Kat debate which of them he meant. They compete for their client's affection to see who really is the best babysitter.
This is another of my favorites to shoot. It was so much fun. One of our clients says that one of us is the favorite babysitter, but doesn't say which of us. This starts Kat and I off into a competition to see who the client actually meant. And the competition ends up going a little too far because me and Kat try some really crazy things to try and keep the client happy. Spencer also ends up making an appearance as a babysitter when Kat and I need some help, and things end up going crazy.
Goomer, sitting Jewel 27, 2013. When you and Kat agree to babysit Goomer while Dice goes away, they misapply Goomer's medication. The mistake with the medication causes him to temporarily lose his eyesight before a big match.
This episode is hilarious. We end up looking after Goomer because Dice is away and have to give him medication, but we accidentally give him the completely wrong dose. Because of this, he goes half blind before his big fight. It's complete chaos, and Spencer tries to help Goomer get his vision back so he can still fight. Kat and I also end up having a very emotional discussion about why we get along so well and don't usually have fights with each other. It's very sweet.
Toddler climbing, AUG 3, 2013. A competing babysitting service is posting fake reviews about you and Kat's babysitting service. You and Kat confront their competition and discover they're not what they seem to be.
This is another fun one to shoot. We find out a rival babysitting business is making up a lot of bad things about us to try and make us look bad. We go check out the competition and end up discovering they're are absolutely terrible at what they do and end up being quite horrible people. It ends up with a really fun showdown at someone's party with us and the competition getting in a really big argument, and we end up winning because they end up showing how awful they are.
Mama Goomer AUG 10, 2013. Goomer's mom is coming to visit but has no idea that her son is an MMA fighter. Dice enlists the help of you and Kat to help convince Goomer's mom that Goomer is a high school teacher.
This one is absolutely crazy. Goomer's mom ends up coming into town to visit, and we find out that she has no idea that he's an MMA fighter. Because of this, Dice wants us to try and convince her that he's a high school teacher. It's wild trying to keep his mom on the wrong end of the stick because she really wants to know the truth, and every little thing makes her suspicious of the secret life that Goomer is leading. It's a really fun episode and ends up being very funny and chaotic.
Babysitting commercial SEP 14, 2013. To boost the success of their babysitting business, you and Kat make an advertisement with Dice's dog. However, when a family recognizes the dog, they claim to the girls that it belongs to them.
This is one episode that was great to film. We decide to promote our babysitting business and make an advertisement. We use Dice Dog in the commercial, and people start claiming that the dog belongs to them. We try to prove that it's Dice's dog and use a lot of different methods to try and prove this, but it doesn't go so well. It's extremely chaotic and a lot of fun to film.
Revenge of the Brit Brats, Sep 21, 2013. Gwen and Ruby return and pretend to be friendly to you and Kat, but only to fulfill their mischievous plan of driving a wedge between the best friends. When you and Kat catch on to their plan, they turn the tables on the con artists.
Oh, I absolutely love this one. This is probably one of my favorite episodes. The evil sisters Gwen and Ruby return to try and cause trouble again. They pretend to be nice to Kat and I to start problems between us, which of course we end up figuring out eventually. And this episode ends up with me and Kat turning the tables and getting revenge. It's fun, and the whole episode is very satisfying.
Motorcycle Mystery, Sep 28, 2013. You, Dice, and Goomer go to an MMA fight and leave Kat home to study. Upon returning, they discover that your motorcycle is missing, and Kat can't remember the day. The group set out to solve the mystery and get Sam's bike back.
This one is an awesome episode. It's got great action and mystery all wrapped up into one. We head to an MMA match and leave Kat at home to study. We return and find out that my motorcycle is missing, and Kat is saying she can't remember anything from the day. We team up with Dice and go and try to solve the mystery of what happened to my motorcycle and what happened to Kat. And it's a really fun episode to figure out what happened.
Secret Safe, Oak T5, 2013. You opens a safe in her bedroom and discovers a tunnel that leads to a secret room. Kat films herself for 24 hours so that her future self can watch it 10 years from now.
One episode I really love to shoot because it was a bit different to what we normally do. I ended up discovering a safe in my room, and it leads to a tunnel into a secret room. Kat decides to film herself as a time capsule for me to look at 10 years into the future, which ends up going wrong. And in the meantime, there's a lot of mystery with who the secret room once belonged to. It's a really fun and exciting one to film.
Oscar the Ouch, Oak T12, 2013. You and Kat have to look after a young boy who is very prone to accidents. Despite struggling to keep him out of harm's way, the girls are determined to show that they can still have a fun time together.
This is a wild one. We look after a little boy who seems to be a magnet for disaster, constantly ending up in accidents. We make it our mission to show that it's still possible to have a fun time despite having to constantly look after this little boy, but it of course turns into chaos. A lot happens in this episode, including a cat being kidnapped, some singing, and a few accidents.
Doll Sitting, Oct 19, 2013. On Halloween, you and Kat are hired to babysit a mysterious doll with unusual and creepy results. Kat also thinks she may have accidentally turned Dice into a monkey with a magic spell.
This episode is so fun. We end up babysitting a creepy doll on Halloween, and all sorts of strange and creepy things happen. There's a lot of supernatural and scary situations, making it quite scary. Also, Kat ends up trying to say a magic spell and ends up accidentally changing Dice into a monkey. A pretty wild episode with a lot going on, but it's a lot of fun for Halloween.
PZB 2, 2013. You gets a job as the assistant to the huge rap star PZB. Kat finds babysitting much more challenging without Sam around to help, so you tells Kat to call Dice and Goomer for help.
This one is fun because we get to involve rapper PZB. I get a job as PZ's assistant, and the B story is all about Kat trying to babysit. She thinks she can do it without our help, but ends up realizing she needs some help, so she calls on Goomer and Dice. This episode is really fun and has a lot to it, and I love PZB's energy.
Sam and Kat Nov 9, 2013. When ordered to rename their babysitting business because it's too similar to Sam and Kat, a TV show from the 70s, the duo must track down the show's creators and resolve a years-long feud.
This is a fun one to shoot because it's like a big mystery. We find out that our babysitting service has been named too similar to the show Sam and Kat, and we have to find out who's behind it so we can fix it. It ends up being a mystery of trying to find the people behind the mystery of the 70s show, and it's like a fun treasure hunt trying to solve the problem.
Twinfection Nov 16, 2013. To prove that she's clever, Kat plays a trick on you using a pair of twins that they are babysitting, so you turns to her own twin, Melanie, to help get her revenge by playing a trick on Kat.
This episode is so fun to make. Kat feels like she needs to prove how smart she is, so she uses the twins we are babysitting to trick me. It's then that I decide to get back at her by calling in my twin sister, Melanie. It's a crazy episode with a lot of plot to it, and it ends up being absolutely hilarious with Kat being pranked a whole bunch throughout the episode.
My Poober Nov 23, 2013. You and Kat are charged with getting a babysitting client to give up her Poober, a ratty old stuffed animal. The client is very attached to her Poober, and it proves a much more difficult task than it first appears.
This episode is a lot of fun to shoot because it's a little ridiculous. The client whose child we babysit has a ratty stuffed toy named Poober that she's super attached attached to. We try to take it off her to give to another kid with an identical poober, but it ends up turning into a lot more chaos than we thought. It's silly, but it's so much fun, and a lot of wild stuff ends up happening.
Mad About Shoe, Nav, 30, 2013. When you eats all of the moon meatballs Cat prepared for a special moon dinner, Cat has to make more. Cat gets distracted when she finds a shoe and becomes obsessed with finding its matching pair.
This is one episode that's super funny because it's so absurd. I eat all the moon-shaped meatballs and Cat's super upset, but she then gets distracted because she finds a single shoe and really wants to find the pair. It's a very silly episode, and we end up hunting everywhere for the rest of the shoe. I loved filming this one because it's so weird. We end up going all around the house trying to find the other pair of the shoe while Cat gets more and more obsessed with finding it.
Magic ATM Jan 4, 2014. You notices that Cat has been spending lots of money. When she asks where it's coming from, Cat takes you to a magic ATM that gives her free money, and you worries that this might not be legal.
This episode takes a turn for the ridiculous. It starts out with me noticing that Cat has a lot of money and is spending a lot of it. I become concerned about where she's getting it all, and she takes me to a magical ATM to show off where it's coming from. We start to wonder if it's not exactly legal for her to be getting money from a magic machine, so we have to find out who's behind it. It's a very fun episode with a lot of crazy things happening, especially with Cat and her magic ATM.
Lumpacious Jan, 11, 2014. You and Cat make a bet with the annoying older brother of a babysitting client that lumpacious is a real word. When they discover it is not, they must figure out how to get it in the dictionary.
This episode is wild. We get into a bet with an annoying older brother of a client we were babysitting who thinks he knows everything. We bet on the word lumpacious being a real word, but when it turns out that it's not, we have to figure out how to get the word to become a word. It's so crazy. We spend a bunch of the episode trying to get this word to become official. There's a lot of insane stuff that happens along the way too.
The Killer Tuna Jump, Freddie Jade, Robbie Jan, 18, 2014. Cat feels left out when Jade and you become friends. Cat tells Freddie a lie to get him to rush to Los Angeles, tries to get revenge on Cat by befriending Robbie. Dice wins a tank of man-eating tuna fish in a poker game.
This episode was great fun, and so much happened. Cat feels left out when me and Jade, a competitor of ours in the babysitting business, become friends. She then tells Freddie a lie to get him to the airport to try and get back at me, but it turns into so much more than just a lie. Robbie ends up being involved. Dice wins a fish tank of man-eating tuna fish in a game of poker, and we try to hide it in the toilet. It's a wild episode with so much going on, and it's hilarious to watch.
Yay Day Jan, 2014. Cat invents a holiday, Yay Day, which is just an excuse to buy presents for everyone. When Cat snoops what other people have got her, she discovers an insulting present from you.
This episode was hilarious. There's so much going on. Cat starts a holiday called Yay Day, which is an excuse for everyone to give each other presents. Cat goes around looking at everyone's presents for her, though, and ends up finding that I've given her a crappy present and ends up getting angry. It's wild how Cat's whole day revolves around getting presents and how much trouble it causes. It's hilarious to watch, though.
Brain Crush Feb, 8, 2014. You and Cat notice everyone, including their friends, are becoming obsessed with the new phone game, Brain Crush. The game is very distracting and the audience are not focused on Cat's one-woman show.
This one is another fun one. We find that everyone is getting hooked on a game called Brain Crush that ends up completely distracting everyone. We get so wrapped up in the game that everyone takes their attention off of Cat's one-person show, so we have to work to get everyone back so they'll watch the show. It's a crazy one as we try and get all of their attention back, and I think we did a good job by the end of it.
Blue Dog Soda Feb 15, 2014. When their favorite soda pop is banned, you and Cat begin making their own version from their apartment. When they start selling the soda, the authorities come knocking at their door.
This one is so much fun because it's completely ridiculous. Our favorite soft drink, Blue Dog, is banned, so we decide we have to replicate it in our apartment. In the process, we end up selling it and become successful, but end up with the cops at our door when they find out what we're doing. It's so crazy that we started an entire soft drink business out of our apartment and then had the cops come after us because it didn't have any sort of official approval.
Blooper episode Feb 22, 2014. You, Ariana, Cameron, Mari, and Zorn are on their lunch break from filming and only have an hour before they're due back on set but are interrupted by fans. They reveal to the fans what happens when they fluff their lines.
This one is great to film because we have fun taking a break from the web show to focus on ourselves and answer a bunch of the fan questions. We all have lunch together and get interrupted by fans, but it allows us to give a whole bunch of details about being on set and answering questions about some of the crazy things that happen when we're filming. It's definitely a super fun one to get to answer a ton of fan questions about life on set and what happens when a scene just doesn't work.
Fresno Girl Mar 15, 2014. You and Kat promise to buy a girl they babysit a Fresno Girl doll if she raises her grades. When she does, you and Kat are financially strained by the markups and add-ons that come with it. Goomer loses his lucky t-shirt.
This episode is hilarious because we agree to reward a girl we babysit with a Fresno Girl doll based on her getting decent grades, but we get completely ripped off when we get there. All the add-ons and markups mean that we basically have to buy her house as well as the doll, and we end up bankrupt. And of course, we can't forget Goomer losing his lucky t-shirt. It was probably the greatest episode for Goomer.
Stuck in a Box, Mar 22, 2014. You and Kat have tickets to go to the Mystic Mountain theme park, but their plans are disrupted when Kat gets trapped inside one of Dice's magic tricks, and the gang must get her out.
This one is wild because Kat accidentally gets locked inside of a magic box that Dice uses for a magic trick. We have tickets to go to a theme park, but end up stuck having to spend the entire day trying to figure out how to get Kat out of the box. The episode ends up going crazy from start to finish as we try to get her out, and this one might just have a twist ending. It's a great one with a fun end that everyone can enjoy.
Super Psycho Mar 29, 2014. Nora targets Dice as a way to get revenge on you, and you and Kat are forced to ask Neville Papperman for help because he is extremely intelligent and could give them valuable information.
This one is a great one because it takes a lot of crazy turns. Nora is out for revenge again and ends up getting to Dice, so we have to ask Neville for help, which is already an insane thing to do because we hate the guy, but he is the smartest among us and our only hope, so we have to ask for his help, which is so crazy to have to do. It's a really crazy episode with lots of hilarious things happening throughout the episode.
Drone Baby Drone Ape or 12, 2014. An online supplier ships his goods by a flying drone, which you and Kat find normal. However, the technology is not yet fully developed, and the flying object causes a lot of chaos.
This one is absolutely crazy because it involves a drone that was made to deliver packages. It's a fun one that ends up bringing a bunch of trouble to us. We think the drone is normal, but it just doesn't work and ends up making a ton of trouble for us. It's an insane episode with so many fun moments. It's one of my favorites to watch.
First Class Problems, APR 26, 2014. You and Kat have to endure babysitting a pair of obnoxious kids, but then the kids' parents ask the girls to escort their kids to the Bahamas. You doesn't want to do it, but Kat does, and she tells Sam about how great flying first class is.
This episode is great because we meet another family who is super annoying, and we babysit them. But then things change when their parents offer us a trip to the Bahamas to babysit them. Kat is on board with the idea because she's heard how great flying first class is and can't resist that. Of course, we end up having a ridiculous time on the flight to the Bahamas with the craziest flight crew ever.
Knockout, Jun 7, 2014. When you and Kat try to help Goomer with a supposed bully at his gym, you ends up knocking out an MMA champ. Surprisingly, he quickly gets pulled into the world of professional fighting.
This episode is wild because this is one of only a few times someone gets straight knocked out in one punch. We try to help Goomer by going to the gym because he says a guy there is being a bully, but he ends up talking to a dude who is a real MMA champ, and we end up accidentally knocking him out with a crazy punch. We end up having to try and get him better while he has this boxing match in the works, and it's a fun one. There's a lot of chaos and some fun moments too.
We Steal a Rock Star, Jules 12, 2014. When you and Kat accidentally knock out musician Del DeVille, things quickly escalate as they try to avoid getting in trouble. Del wakes up and remembers what happened and starts to call the cops, but you tackles him and knocks him out again.
This episode is hilarious because we accidentally knock out Del DeVille, a rock star. It wasn't on purpose, and we actually try to avoid getting into trouble by knocking him out, but we have no idea what to do with him, so we end up having to keep him locked up in my apartment. Things get a little crazy when he wakes up, and we have to knock him out again in order to keep him from reporting us. It's a crazy episode, and it's very hard not to laugh while filming it.
Getting Wiggy Jules 17, 2014, Kat takes Dice to a hair modeling job in Arizona. You is stuck at home with Nona for a weekend roommate.
This one is great because we all end up in our own little story. Kat helps Dice out at a hair modeling job in Arizona, while I end up stuck at home with Nona and her obsession with goats. It's super weird and hilarious, especially considering the circumstances I end up in while Kat is away. And of course, we get a crazy end to the episode. It's a fun one, and it's great to switch things up and spend time with Nona for a while.
You was in Zoe 101. You play as Trisha Kirby.
Yes, I was. Zoe 101 was an amazing show to work on, and it was my first big gig. I played a friend of Zoe and ended up doing about one episode. It's really fun looking back and remembering being on set.
What the funniest moment with Jamie Lynn Spears?
Oh, there were so many funny moments with Jamie Lynn Spears. She is an absolutely lovely person, but could be so much fun on set. One moment that comes to my memory was when we were shooting an episode with us at school, and we were doing some basketball tricks, and she was having so much with us. We just had a really fun vibe on set together.
What the harder scene with Daniela Monet?
Daniela was hilarious. It was great doing scenes with her, and every scene was so fun. I actually can't think of a time that one scene was harder than the rest, because she was really good at getting into the role and really just being naturally good in front of the camera. I can't pick one scene because we had such a fun time doing the entire series together, and it was all really fun.
You was in Malcolm in the Middle. You play as Daisy.
I played Daisy in Malcolm in the Middle. Yeah! It was really fun because we filmed at the actual house used for the show, which gave a whole different feeling to it. It was definitely a different thing to work on, and the cast was great, and everything was very fun. I don't remember a scene being particularly difficult, so it was a good one to work on.
What the funniest scene with Lucas Rodriguez?
That's a good question. It was a long time ago. I remember being on set with him and just how natural he was at doing comedy, and he was so young as well. He was amazing at performing at a very young age. I remember him being only 9, which is really impressive because it can be a pretty difficult thing to do as a 9-year-old kid. But the funniest moment from working with him was probably when we did a crazy skit where I played myself and he was trying to pick me up. It was a fun skit.
What the hardest scene with Justin Pierce?
Justin was great to work with and had so much talent. He did an amazing job at being such a great bad guy, and I learned a lot from him with doing certain scenes. We had a lot of good times on set, and it was definitely a lot of fun filming everything. I don't know that any scene particularly stands out, but if I had to say one that stands out, it would be our fight scenes. We had a couple of fight scenes, and he got really into them, which was awesome. It made the scenes so much more real.
You was in between. You play as Wiley Day.
Wiley is another character I've enjoyed playing because it was just a fun one to be able to act all crazy. Playing someone with a completely different personality to myself can make an episode really fun to shoot, as it's more of a challenge to get into the right headspace. Overall, it was a pretty fun role to play, and the ending was so satisfying.
Horatio Rising Jewel 28, 2016. Adam seeks out the truth of the government's plans for Pretty Lake. Meanwhile, Wiley faces the aftermath of Renee's shooting and confronts Liam.
That was an exciting episode to make. A lot was happening in the episode. Adam is searching all over to learn the truth about Pretty Lake and what is really going on, while Wiley has to deal with all sorts of aftermath from what was going on. It was definitely a crazy one, especially with the twist ending.
Don't Look Back. AUG 4, 2016. Wiley, Chuck, and the rest of the kids race to the extraction point.
This episode was so much fun to film. We ended up running a lot. It's a very action-packed episode, and we put an absolute boatload of work into the whole thing. It was so much fun to do, and I was surprised at how good the final product ended up for the episode. It's really intense and a fun watch.
You was in Law & Order Special Victims Unit. You play as Holly Purcell.
Yes, I was. It was great to be a part of the show. It definitely showed me how other TV shows were filmed compared to the show I was on at the time. I was only in the episode for a few scenes, so it was definitely a different experience to what I was used to. But it was fantastic, and I had a lot of fun shooting it. I've seen the episode come up in syndications a few times since it first aired, which is pretty weird to see. It's amazing seeing myself pop up.
You was in Best Player, you play as Chris Prodigy Saunders.
That's right, I played Chris Prodigy Saunders. I had a blast doing that episode. That movie was great to work on, and it was fun doing the whole esports thing. The whole episode was so much fun, especially because it was really different to anything I'd ever done before, and I got to do my own trick shot into a basketball hoop, which was absolutely insane. I had to try 30 times, and it took me about 28 attempts to get the shot, but it definitely paid off. It's an awesome episode, especially for the gamers.
You was in Little Bitches, you play as Annie.
Yes, I play Annie in Little Bitches. It was great fun working on that movie. The whole thing was crazy and absolutely hilarious. Filming was a lot of fun, and it's hilarious to look back on the film now. The entire concept is so insane. It was also another time when my friends and I did a good portion of our own stunts, which means a lot of fun memories being made. It was a little strange for me to try and play such a crazy character, but I ended up having fun with it.
What's your favorite moment with Kiersey Clemens?
Kiersey is so fun to work with. Everything she does is just effortlessly hilarious. There's a moment from one scene in particular that stands out. We were filming a few different scenes at a party, and she just improvised this one moment because she was feeling into it, and it was so much more funny than what had been scripted. It didn't stop being funny during the whole shoot. It was impossible not to laugh trying to get through the scene with that one moment.
What the hardest scene with Virginia Gardner?
Virginia is another one I enjoyed working with, and every scene was crazy because she just brings in so much of her character and really gets into everything she does. She is a brilliant actor, and it was definitely a fun experience getting to be in a movie with her, but it was also hard because she is such a wonderful actress that it brings up the standard just being in a scene with her. She also did a lot of her own stunts, and we had a lot of fun with that, but it could be a little crazy at times trying to stay safe while doing it.
You was in Swindle, you play as Savannah Westcott?
Yes, indeed I was. Swindle was another fun one, as it was quite an unusual movie with the story and the general idea. But it was fun to play Savannah. She was a fun character to play. She had some great lines, and I really enjoyed the whole process of filming it. The whole movie was filmed in this small town in Utah, and I was just fascinated by the whole thing. Also, it was very fun getting to work with the great cast, and they were all so nice and welcoming. They really made the experience as wonderful as possible.
What the funniest scene with Ariana Grande on Swindle?
Ariana was so fun to work with. She was such a professional, even back when this was filmed. She had some hilarious lines in the movie, but there was a scene in particular that is my favorite because it was very unscripted and everything happened spontaneously. We were all doing some improvising, and Ariana did something that left us all in hysterics. A lot of the laughter ended up in the movie, so it's really fun to look back on it. And we also managed to put her in a few risky situations for the film as well, which was pretty awesome.
What the hardest scene with Chris O'Neill?
Chris was a great guy to work with, and he's really talented. He definitely brought a lot into the scenes, which was great to act alongside of. He had just finished shooting his show, so he was super into the whole acting scene and brought everything he could into it. He also did quite a few of his own stunts and was willing to do pretty much anything for the scene, which was awesome. Definitely not your usual child star with a lot of restrictions. We went really wild during the episode, which kept it fun.
You was in Pet, you play as Claire?
I remember that movie. It was definitely a strange one. I played Claire, and to be honest, I only did a few scenes in it, but they were great fun. It was a different thing to work on, as it was a lot more indie than the stuff I was used to at the time. The whole story was so crazy, and it was a lot of fun trying to get into the character of Claire. I didn't have as much of a chance to have much fun with everyone else because the filming was done in short spells over a long period, but it was definitely a fun project.
What the funniest scene with Dominic Monaghan?
Dom was so fun to work with. I absolutely loved working alongside him. The whole experience was great. He was very easy to get along with, and he's a very talented actor. But the funniest scene was probably when he was working on a scene and decided to do a bunch of different variations of the dialogue, and kept making me break character because he was just so funny. He was very much up for doing anything and making fun of the script, which was so funny to work on because it was fun to see another side to what we had filmed.
What hard scene with Ksenia Solo?
Ksenia is an awesome actor. She's so driven, and It's great to work with people like her. It's amazing to see the kind of lengths she's willing to push herself to. She did all the crazy stunts herself, and she was so committed to making sure the whole thing was realistic as possible. I particularly loved the scene where she was hanging on for dear life, and there was a lot of wire work and a lot of effort for her to get it all absolutely right. But it looked great in the end, and you can really see the level that Ksenia pushed herself to.
You was in Fred, the movie you play as Bertha.
Fred was a funny thing to work on. I only had a few scenes, but it was great fun to be a part of, especially as it was kind of my first big break. So it was an awesome experience. I played Bertha, which was a fun character. The most fun moment from working with the cast was when we were doing the party scenes, because they were such chaos. We had an absolute blast doing it all, and it was just nonstop laughter the entire time.
Where's your thoughts working with John Cena?
It was interesting to work with John Cena, as I'd never done anything like that before. He was very professional and clearly has a lot of experience under his belt. I was a bit intimidated because he's such a big guy and such an established actor, but he really made it easy to work with him. I felt comfortable with him, and he made it very fun. We got through the shoots with no problems, and it was a great experience.
What the funniest moment with Lucas Crookshank?
That was a truly fun one. It was a great experience, and Lucas was so fun to work with. He was so into it the entire time and was always so funny and so willing to do pretty much anything he was asked. But the funniest moment was probably when we were doing one scene, and he just decided to start doing random things to try and make everyone laugh while we were filming. It was so fun to see him having such a good time, and we managed to put some of the laughter in the final edit because it was such a funny moment.
What the hardest scene in with Siobhan Fallon Hogan?
She is absolutely lovely and was a great actor to work with. She was so fun from day one. We did everything pretty quickly, and it was just easy to get into the scenes with her. But I'd say the hardest scene with her was probably when there was no time to prepare and we just had to jump in, and it meant that we had to get it right on the first try because we didn't have time to reset. It pushed it to the limits, but it worked out fine in the end.
You was in True Jackson, VP, you play as Pinky.
Yes, that was another one I absolutely loved being a part of. The whole cast was amazing, and we ended up having so much fun working on it. I played Pinky. It was such an awesome character to play because she was so fun and wild and kind of out of the box. I loved the episode where we did the makeover episode. It was just so fun to let loose and have fun. My favorite moment would be in that episode. I got to play around with a bunch of different wigs and makeup, and that was a whole lot of fun.
What are your thoughts working with Tom Kenny?
Tom is so much fun to work with. The one thing that was constantly amazing about working with him was just how many different things he was doing on the side. He is absolutely brilliant and has so much talent. He was constantly making us laugh, and he really made the whole thing fun. Working with him was an absolute treat, and he was so funny the entire time. You really see the fun side coming through when he's on a set. He was a blast to be with.
What the funniest moment with Tom Kenny?
That's a tough one, as there were so many great moments. There's one where we were doing a scene in the studio with all the cast, and Tom was doing a ridiculous amount of voices all at once, and they were all so good, and we were all just cracking up. It probably took forever to get through, but it was totally worth it. We just let him keep going until he ran out of voices, and it was absolutely hilarious. I think we used some of that audio in the actual episode because it was so funny.
What the hardest scene in with Natasha Bedingfield?
Natasha was so lovely to work with, and she's an incredibly talented singer. We had a lot of fun shooting the scenes with her and trying to integrate singing into what was going on. But I'd say the hardest scene with her was a scene in an alleyway. We were singing and dancing, and it was a lot of coordination going on. We didn't have a lot of time to practice it either, so we kind of had to jump right into it. She was great about it. And it eventually ended up looking great, but it was a lot of hard work.
You was in Golden Dreams, you play as Girl in Car.
Yep, I got to play a girl in a car. It wasn't a huge role, but it was fun because it was my first time getting to do a bunch of car scene work. It was fun just seeing how it worked and getting to drive around too. I don't remember much about the actual shoot because it was all kind of thrown together, but it was fun to see how it all came together in the end, and a pretty cool experience for sure.
What the funniest moment with Whoopi Goldberg?
She was just awesome to work with in every way, and she made everyone on set laugh through the entire process. We worked pretty quickly, so things kept moving, and it was just constant fun. But the funniest moment with her was probably when she had me try on her shoes, and they were enormous on me and so ridiculous, but she thought it was hilarious to see it.
What the hardest scene with Jason Tobin?
Jason is such a great actor, and working with him was awesome because he's so good at just making things happen. We would play around with the lines and just figure out different ways to say things, because if you mess something up, he would try to improvise it. It was a lot of fun to play around with the lines, but I'd say the hardest scene with him was the action scene. We weren't entirely prepared and had to make it up as we went along, but it turned out well, and he was great about being patient and just going along with it.
You was in Minor Details, you play as Mia.
That was fun to shoot because I got to play around with a lot of different things. I was in charge of creating a lot of the music choices for it, and this was before I was really into my music. I got to try out a bunch of different types of music, and it was just fun to have a creative role like that. I don't remember a lot about the scenes because I was so young. I just remember the fun of making my own choices and getting into the music side of things.
What funny scene with Danielle Chutrin?
Danielle was great to work with. She's one of those people that really gets the whole thing works, which made it really easy. We spent a lot of the time just hanging out and getting to know each the while. We did a lot of crazy things together. But the funniest scene, which was unplanned and unscripted, was probably the one where we had a fake fight and just ad-libbed a whole bunch of insults at each other for a solid minute.
What the hardest scene with Caitlin E.J. Meyer?
Caitlin was such a fun actress to work with, and she was so cool in how she got right into the character. We spent some serious hours on set, and she was a really good sport throughout it all. The hardest scene was probably an emotional one for her because we had to work on how she was reacting and how she was delivering it. But it was fantastic, and you could really see how well she did with it.
You was in 8 Bodies, you play as yourself.
That was a fun one because it was a short film, and the experience ended up being a lot more fun than I'd expected. I got play myself, so I got to take a break from acting and just enjoy hanging out and being myself. It was an interesting movie to work on, and even though it was a short movie, they put in a lot of effort into every second, and it looked great.
What the funniest moment with Nathan Kress, who play as police officer?
He was great to work with. We didn't get to film much together, but he was an awesome guy. I remember his police costume was so ridiculous that we spent most of the shoot just laughing about it. We ended up doing some behind the scenes stuff where he was just walking out of his car, and he was a great sport about it all.
What hard scene with Paige Clone?
Paige is a great actor, and we had a lot of fun together. She has just come off the show Jessie, and was just starting her music career as well, and was always so much fun to be around. There's a bunch of scenes I could pick that was hard because the whole movie was a bit hard to get through, but I'd say the hardest scene was a heavy emotional one that we had to get through, but we got through it, and it ended up being something really powerful.
You was in What's Next for Sarah, you play as Sarah Bronson.
Yes, that was a fun one. It was really cool to do a movie when we weren't even acting really, we just got to be ourselves. It was such a fun shoot for all of us because we got to just have fun while filming. There's a ton of fun memories from the movie, but I gotta go with the scene at the end because it was all just super fun on the last day.
You was in Bucket and Skinner's Epic Adventures, you play yourself.
That was such a fun way to make an appearance. I didn't really do a lot, but it was definitely fun to do. We were just doing a quick cameo for a show, but it was great because we all just got to hang out and let loose and say whatever we wanted to when we were on set.
You was in The Last Day of Summer, you play as Dory Sorensen.
That was an awesome experience. We got to film in a small town outside of LA and got to hang out in a whole different world than normal. It was a crazy story, but a really, really fun one. We did a lot of location shooting in the small town, and I got to do a lot of walking around as we did a lot of stuff outdoors, so it was great to be outside. Some of the funnest moments were when the characters were doing things in the town, specifically in and around the pond area.
You made a book about I'm Glad My Mom Died.
Yes, I did. I have to say, writing that book was an incredible experience, and it was amazing to look back on my life and get to share the things I had gone through. I was terrified about exposing my past, but I knew it would be healing to get to share what happened. And it really has been healing because I got to share the details of what happened, and it has really taken a weight off of me.
You made another book called Jennette McCurdy Biography and Memoir.
I sure did. It was quite an experience. It's so funny to get to talk about an autobiography, especially when I hadn't done anything like that before. But it was amazing to have the opportunity to share more of my life and get to open up the doors of my past that I had kept hidden for so long. The whole process was an adventure, and I met some incredible people while writing it.
32 years. How do you feel?
I feel pretty great. It's a crazy feeling to finally be 32 years old. It's been a wild journey to get here, but I've learned so much and have experienced so many amazing things. And I'm really happy with where I'm at now in life. And that's the best thing that can be said, I guess.
What's your childhood?
That's a long story. I think my childhood wasn't as good as I would have liked it to be honest. I'm just now working through all the trauma from my childhood, and it's so different going through it as an adult. I try to keep a smile through it and to focus on the good things, but it is hard to talk about.
Do you have plans to have kids in the future?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure if I have plans to have kids. Right now I'm not in the right place to do so, but it's something that if I get to a better point where I'm mentally and financially stable, I could see it happening. It's just not something that I really have planned on right now.
How meet American basketball player Andre Drummond?
It was great. He's a really nice guy, and he is so inspiring. It's crazy to see him in person because you've seen him playing on TV, so you know how big he is. But seeing him in person really puts things into perspective. He is an amazing inspiration because he's got the whole basketball thing going, but he's also such a down-to-earth guy to be with that I got to see a side of him that people don't often get to see.
What's your favorite thing with him?
I guess my favorite thing about him is how normal he is. It's so weird because he could be a diva and could just sit back and do whatever, but he's got this energy where he wants to get in and do the work and be just like any other person. It's a really amazing thing that he does because it just brings him to a level that most people can't relate to. It's so cool to see him being so down to earth.
You first, Ariana Grande. What was you thinking of your hit on Sam and Cat?
I met Ariana and she just seemed so different from what I thought she would be. You've got this girl being the star of a hit show, and I guess I just assumed she would be this serious diva who wouldn't have the time to actually be fun to be with. But she was so friendly and so fun. I just had a great time working with her. She was such a great actress and a good time to be around. And it was even more fun because I've always been a fan of her music, so working with her on the show was a great surprise.
What you thought on your book bestseller, I'm Glad My Mom Dead, 40 Week?
That was the craziest thing to see. I had no idea people would be so into it, so seeing it as a bestseller was so weird. I thought a few people would have interest just because we always have an interest in celebrity biographies, but the idea that something I wrote became a bestseller was just insane. And the response was crazy. Every day people were telling me how they connected to the whole thing and were able to understand where I was coming from.
Speaking with the incomparable Drew Barrymore, how did you feel when was talking with her?
She is so awesome and so much more amazing in person than in the movies. She's so fun and so genuine. It was incredible to sit down with her and just chat about things. She really takes the time to connect with people and really understands them. She just seems to really want to know about what's going on, and she was so fun to be around. It really made me feel like she knew where I was coming from and that she wanted to learn about me.
Your revelatory memoir sells out on Amazon one day after release.
That was a crazy thing to happen. I have no explanation for it, to be honest. I had no idea it would blow up like that, but I guess people just love a good story. It made me realize that there are so many people out there going through the same thing, and that I'm not the only one who's had to work with a mother like that. It's crazy to see that people are actually reading it.
You was in Good Morning America as well.
That was a lot of fun, although I had a lot of nerves going into the interview. I had no idea how everything would go, and I was kind of scared going into it, but it went really well, and I got to talk about my whole story.
Play I'm Doing with Alex Wolff official. The worst thing you ever did, July 8th to 9th, 8 p.m., the Hudson Theater.
That's correct. And, I'm starring in a play as part of the Hudson Theater Lab series. It's a comedy, and I get to work with Alex Wolff, who I've done other shows with before. It's going to be a lot of fun and is so different from anything else I've done.
What is your thoughts working with Miranda Cosgrove and Nathan Kress, Jerry Trainer, Noah Monk?
They were the perfect trio on iCarly, and it was amazing to be with them. We had an amazing time doing the show, and I really wish we had gotten more time to work with each other. We were one of the hottest things going for a while, but we were never able to get the show to last. That whole cast was just so much fun, and we were able to get some great work going on with each other. There was a lot of love on set, and we were all there doing our best to make it the best we could.
15 years old filming of iCarly.
That was such a long time ago. It's crazy to think that I've been doing this for so long. I can't believe that the show was that long ago. I just remember having such a great time filming the show and being so excited about seeing the ending result that I didn't pay much attention to the time we were spending. There was so much fun to be had that my eyes ended up being glued to that instead of the clock going by so fast.
And 20 years old Sam and Cat?
That was such a crazy time. That whole experience was just crazy. It all happened so fast, and it was such a fun time making that show. I had just turned 20, and here I was working with Ariana Grande and this show that I'd been such a big fan for, and I was just overwhelmed with how much fun it was all going to be. It was such a crazy time, and it was the first time that I'd had that much fame to it. And it was so much fun, and I really miss doing it to this day.
We'll do more acting in your future.
I definitely plan on doing more acting. I really miss working in front of the camera and being on set and doing all these cool projects. I'm sure there will be something else coming up in the future because I've had the acting bug from when I was a little kid. I'm not sure when I'll be on the screen again, but I'm definitely planning on it.
What do you think in the movie will be about?
I have no idea. I'd love to be a part of another movie, especially one that has some importance to it. I don't feel like I'm at a point to make my own script right now, although I do have an idea for it. I just think it would be fun to play a role in a movie that has an important message, something like what I would have loved to see when I was younger that could have had more of an impact on me.
Why isn't you in the iCarly reboot?
That's a tough one. So Tang Shit's, there were a lot of reasons to it, but it really boiled down to the fact that I had moved on from iCarly. I finished the show all the way back in 2012, so it had been a long time since I was on a Nickelodeon show, so there was no reason for me to come back. I had a great time doing the show, but the idea of going back into iCarly just wasn't in the cards for me.
You recalls being yelled at repeatedly while filming her first kiss with iCarly co-star Nathan Kress. You recalled the nerve-wracking experience of filming her first ever kissing scene. Sam and Freddie's kiss in season 2 of iCarly marked you first one in real life and on screen.
I remember that scene. It was so crazy because it was one of the first romantic scenes for my character in the show, and I was completely clueless to the whole thing. We had to film a bunch of other scenes before the actual kiss, and I'd been able to get through all of those fine. But the minute it got close to the kiss, I was so nervous. It was so difficult to do it, but we got through it one way or another.
Are you proud of your husband on Team Philadelphia 76ers?
I am so proud of him for doing so good in the league so far. It's awesome to see him do such a fantastic job and work so hard to get to where he is. It's definitely nerve-wracking to support an athlete because it is so unpredictable and you never know how things are going to go. But so far, my husband is doing amazing, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the season has for him.
He stands at 6'11" and weighs 279 elbs.
Yeah, he's a pretty large guy, and he definitely towers over me. He's the kind of guy that has to duck through every door he goes through, and he's so much larger than me that I feel tiny next to him.
What if you work with Jenna Ortega?
I think that would be so fun. She just seems so great. I've never worked with her, but she gets so much praise from everyone she works with. I've thought about doing something with her, to be honest, but we never found a project to work with each other. She's such a fun person. I'd love to get a chance to be in something with her.
Why did Hollywood stop casting you?
I think the biggest reason is that I grew from a child actor into an adult actor, and there just aren't that many serious roles for girls in the older age range. I ended up not getting as many serious roles as I'd like. The main shows we ended up getting were iCarly and Sam and Cat. I'd love to be in more movies, but it's just hard to get serious roles as you grow older. It's a huge change from kids' roles.
2012, Sam and Cat ran just one season from 2013-14, after which, you writes, you're turned down a $300,000 offer from Nickelodeon if you agreed never to speak publicly about you experiences at the network.
That's mostly accurate. It was pretty much a case of having the choice of taking the money and signing the NDA and not being able to talk about the whole thing, which came with $300,000. It was tempting for sure, but at the time I chose not to take that deal. That was such a hard decision to make. 300,000 would have been great, but I just couldn't keep quiet after having such a bad experience at Nickelodeon.
Is this true you film on eCarly a real apartment?
It was a real apartment. The set was real, and it actually all came from one building. They built one apartment to look like the living room and kitchen, and the 2 separate bedrooms and bathrooms in that apartment were real. Then they had other sets of the living room, plus they built sets for the elevator, and the apartment building exterior and the lobby and all that stuff were filmed in the same building.
Thanks for coming. You can see anything you went.
I'm always happy to do it. I appreciate the great questions, and thanks for putting up with the way longer answers than you probably expected. I tend to be pretty talkative, in case you didn't notice.
I am Snoop Dogg. This is Jennette McCurdy. We both sign out. Peace.
Oh, definitely. This is Jennette McCurdy, and I just wanted to say thank you all for your support. I want to give a special shout out to my favorite guy, my husband, Andre Drummond. He's doing amazing with the Philadelphia 76ers, and anyone who's an NBA fan should go check him out. You can follow me on Instagram at Jennette McCurdy, TikTok at Jennette McCurdy, Facebook at Jennette McCurdy, my Twitter at Jennette McCurdy, and my YouTube at Jennette McCurdy Official.